We are back. Bro, it's been, I think last time we did this, it was like online. I think it was like even before Christmas.
This is before I even had my baby.
Wow.
It's probably 2 years ago.
Dude, that's crazy. No, I mean, I had to take a break, bro. I seriously felt like I needed to just stop and work on myself.
What happened to you, Daniel?
Bro, I was just going through stuff in life. I mean, I wanted to speak from a healthy place. And I was just working on myself, on getting myself to love self, if that makes sense. I had a lot of things that I just didn't like about myself. And I was like trying to get to a place where I'm like, hey, I love myself. And so I can love my neighbor. And you can't love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. You can't give what you don't have. And so I was like kind of being cautious. I didn't want to say something out of place, out of a wrong heart posture. And because you guys deserve the good stuff, not the bad stuff, even though it's the real stuff sometimes, the good and the bad. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be one of those people that just does stuff, ministry, just because I feel like I have to do it. I always did this from a place of, this is something I like to do for fun. Mm-hmm. This is something I like to do to help people. Maybe it'll not do much, but maybe it'll do a little bit, and every little bit counts, and they'll be better because of it. But I just wanted to make this kind of like a simple thing. We just doing the free mics today. So, if the mic is picking up stuff that you don't like, that's, it is what
that's your fault, not our fault.
Yeah. No, Vlad was in Europe and he's like, hey, dude, I'm coming down to Florida. And I'm like, bro, we should do a podcast episode. I haven't done those in a while. And I feel like I want to get back into it. I feel like I'm at a place where I feel comfortable doing them again. But yeah, bro, I just wanted to talk about friendship. That was something that was like deep, but simple and a flow. And
would you consider me your friend?
Right? No, bro, you're a real one, bro. You're that homeboy that like gets me and just been there for me in the ups and downs. Sadly, when you go through life and the things I've been through, you learn a very valuable lesson, which is there's not a lot of true friends, but the true ones, they're closer than a brother, like the Bible says. And watch out for them snakes, because, sometimes I had those people where I'm like, oh, they're a friend, or they maybe, snaked me and maybe they changed and all that stuff. But this is a big lesson I learned, and this is not my thing, but it's this principle of basically snakes, bro, in life. They don't change. They shed their skin and they get bigger, but they don't change. And you'll recognize them by their fruit. Bible talks about that a lot. And it's a very tough lesson for myself because I'm a very relational person. I love building bridges. I hate breaking them down. But sometimes in order for the betterment of you, your sanity, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, you just got to burn them bridges, move on, find a different way, a different path. And the bridges that are still there, fortify them, maintenance them.
Okay, I'm very curious about this.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna open this like in my life, and I don't know. You guys tell me if this relates to you. In my life, I haven't had any like crazy moments or any crazy things that like just went off. Like I never had friendships that I had to actually burn down or that ended really negatively. Most of my friends or acquaintances that kind of faded away has been pretty peaceful and sort of mutual. And probably since, I don't know, high school. I haven't had that. I don't know if that has to do something with me or maybe with the people that surrounded me. But I'm very curious when you say burning bridges, and in your case, what did that look like for you?
One word. Hell. No, what I mean by that is like it just sucks, dude. If you're a people person, that's like pulling off or like getting, you get a cut and you got to clean it, debridement, medical term. That's what it feels like. It does not feel pleasant. You're cleaning out the stuff that is making you sick, and you're in this place where you don't know who's gonna your trust. That's the best thing I could put as a practical thing. Your trust level is so low. You feel like everybody's against you. You don't know who to trust, who to not trust. You expect an attack from every corner, whether it's family, whether it's friends that you've had.
So have you had a moment where it's like it went really bad, and you don't have to say names, so you can
No.
generalize it.
I and that's the thing. I'll never be the type of person unless it's like close friends. I'll say that, just for the sake and when I feel like I should. But I only call out like the spirit, so to say, or like that kind of action of the people. But I'll never say the name. And it's just from a defaming somebody. It's just wrong. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, there's been people who quite literally you brought them up, so to say. You got them out of the mud. Places where if you let them go down, they might have never came out. And that wasn't by my grace. It was more of like the grace God showed me. And I felt like, you know what? I feel really bad for this person or these people. And so I'm going to be obedient to God. I'm going to do this. And even though I don't feel like I should, I don't feel I have this connection with this person to this level, but for their betterment, for their soul's betterment, I'm going to do this. And then, so to say, getting the hand that fed you bitten type of response, being in terms of that me, the person that lifted you, me being the glove, God being the hand through which kind of he operated, in that sphere. And I'm being very vague in a very, in a very intentional way without spilling any details. But like in ministry, this is where it happens the most. And funny enough, I mean, there's a great podcast, and I'm not a type of person that will never plug another podcast, even if I'm not whatever. Recently, Mike Todd with Tim Ross, I believe his name is, the B-Side podcast, I believe. They did a episode about how that looks like in ministry, and they're on a whole nother ball game of ministry, and they were talking about something where it's like, there's people that will surround you and they'll only be there. You'll help them. You raise them up. You do something for them. They do something. And sometimes it's just like one way. And all you're doing there is just like, you're lifting them, you're feeding them in some capacity, and it gets to a place where they're like, hey, I'm not getting anything from this person. I'm bouncing.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. I think in my experience and what I've seen other people talk about, friendships sort of say get built two ways. There's
constructive versus destructive.
Well, I mean, where I'm going with this is trying to go piggyback from what you said is, especially, we talk about church, we can talk about work. Sometimes, maybe it comes into personal life, but there's going to be a lot of times where people will be friends with you or have a relationship with you because of your talent, of your gift, of what you have to offer. Right? This happens a lot in ministries and churches. This happened to me where because of what you do, who you are, your title, people become friends with you because of that, right? And once you stop giving that to them, or you pull yourself back, or maybe you kind of run out of juice and you don't really bring anything to the table anymore, that friendship ends, right? So that's a very straightforward, shallow, like based on, let's say, works, right? It's based on
Transactional friendship.
yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
This happens a lot in churches and ministries, especially if you're from Slavic background. You know that. If you're a go-getter, you know, we're going to be friends with everybody. You know, when I was a youth pastor, youth leader, I was friends with every youth upcoming leader out there. Everybody wanted to be friends with me. And then there's a different type of friendship or relationship that's just straight up relational and just goes off of personality,
Heart.
and heart. And that's my favorite like way of building relationship. A lot of times I love to open with, even when I meet new people, I love to open with something that's a little less title. Like, I don't talk about titles, I don't talk about what I do, but I try to, when I express something about myself, it's more of a personal thing. And I try to catch something about them, their heart posture, maybe how they say things, how they react versus what they do. And I've noticed also, and if you're a relational person, and you are, and you know, I consider myself that the same way. It's very easy to build those relationships with, you know, like-minded people, and it's very, very easy to spot people who only want to have a relationship with you based on transaction. So, and a lot of times it's all about me. You know, have you noticed?
But bro, I want to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's what actually burned me.
Okay.
I didn't. I was being naive about intention of people. And you recommended this book, 48 Laws of Power. And if you read this book, you'll get what I'm saying. I was being that person where I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play this game. I don't want power. I don't want, like, I'm doing ministry. I'm doing everything I'm doing in my life. It's like totally different from the ministry game, you know, the ministry power game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I'm trying to become a dentist. I'm in the medical field, all that business world thing. I don't want any of this. Like, I'm gonna hang over the rings to the thing we were doing back then, and I'm getting ready for that. And it's like you get to a place where people just come in and they're like, hey, let me yank the rug under you because I want the power. And I'm playing the game.
Right.
You might be naive, or like you're like, no, these people are better than that. They're not playing this game too.
Yeah.
But I was so naive, and that's what caused me.
Yeah, and I think,
You know.
I think that's important to understand the power game, kind of like what you're saying. Understand the thinking behind the people they're doing this. Why are they want to have a relationship with you? What is the basis? What is the foundation of that relationship? And when you start to understand and breaking down those layers, and it's really easy to actually get over it, honestly.
Yeah.
That's why, for me personally, maybe because I understood this power game like almost right away, but I notice when people are not being genuine and they break a relationship with you, it definitely hurt. Like, I'm not gonna go and, you know, fight with people, but I've had times where my, you know, friends left me because they left the church, and I thought we were great friends, but then as soon as they leave the church, we're not friends anymore. Well, why? Because that was very transactional. So I got very hurt. But then over time, I'm like, wait, that was a very transactional relationship, and I misjudged it. That's actually my fault. I misjudged the relationship. I trusted this person. I thought, hey, they like me for who I am, but not for what I do. And even though they show that, sometimes it looks like, hey, well, I love you, we're going to support you, this and that, whatever you do. I don't know. It's like they only saying it because they love your talent. They love the way you speak. They love the way you dress. They love the way the way you do things. Maybe it's, whatever it is. So I think it's super important for us to understand, evaluate every relationship you have and say, hey, like, what is the actual foundation? Where did we start? Where is
We
this
go
from?
all the way back, bro.
I mean, we knew each other for a while, and then we haven't been like friends or anything like that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's interesting that when I left Florida, that's when we became friends.
Closer.
Yeah.
We were kind of like acquaintances.
Yeah.
In a way. I mean, we were hanging out with the youth whenever the Ukrainian youth back in Ukraine was hanging out. But we were kind of just casual. Like very casual.
Did I actually invite you to my wedding? I don't think you were at my wedding.
I don't think so.
So
That's okay. Bro, I have another
that's-
homeboy who like we were friends
But that's what
Hey,
I'm saying.
if that person was watching this, no, we talk about this. We all good, all this stuff. And by the way, all these conversations about this friendship stuff, I want to make sure this disclaimer: we are not speaking from a position of hurt or anything like that. We got over this stuff. We've healed, but we're calling out that spirit and like these type of things that are just should be talked about. Maybe they're not, and maybe this will help somebody process those things they're going through just as similar.
Yes.
Similarly, like we did.
Yeah.
Because this is something that happens, and it happens to pastors who are way more mature than us, like Erwin McManus
Right.
in his Mindshift book, or big guys. Anyways,
But listen, you were not at my wedding. This was
Yes.
7 years ago. Then we became friends, and then we got pretty close as we were far away. If you notice, when you're growing up as a kid, and you go to high school, you go to middle school, you go to high school, college, most of your friends are based on your surrounding. So your friends are determined by who you surround yourself with. It's your church, your school, whatever, etc. When you get to a point where you pull yourself out of that surrounding, and then you start looking at people around you and you say, well, who are actually my friends and who I want to build a relationship with? I think that's the key moment. I think that's what happened between you and I, is that we were not in each other's surrounding. We actually separated, but we became a lot closer friends.
Yeah.
Because of, I feel like we were both try to be relational. We haven't seeked anything from each other, and we helped each other grow. And I think these are the key things that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't talk to anybody from Florida at all. And
Feel honored.
and I'm not saying it because they're bad people or anything like that. I have a different life.
Yeah.
They have a different life. It happens. But first year or two, we kind of talk. Now I'm just like, sometimes once in a while, But I think the key here is find those relationships that you can both benefit, that you can both invest in and get something out of it. Not just in a way that's like, okay, I'm gonna get this, and that, but it's like, hey, we're both uplifting each other, because you don't want to. This is something from that book, Mindshift. Erwin talked about it a lot of times. You don't want to be. You're gonna have to lose some friends in order to move to a next step.
Preacher, bro.
And when I left the youth ministry, I realized I had no friends. Actually, like I had one friend or two friends, And now I don't do any ministry as much because I have a kid. I'm busy. I'm working, doing small group stuff like that. I have more friends than I had before. Why? Because my friendships are not built on my youth ministry or my position. Now it's just genuinely, I want to pursue people that I love, and I want to build life with them together. You know what I mean? So I think for whoever's watching, for us, it's like, let's be intentional about who we're actually pouring into and who we're allowing to be in our lives.
And that's what I wanted to touch, is like, you have to have like an onion of friends, onion rings.
That's cool.
Kind of thing. My pastor did this like illustration. It's like, there's people at your core that you basically have this very deep level of trust where they invest into you and you invest into them. And that's like with time, with like prayers, with like this effort, this deeper level of investment, right? And then there's people who are on the outskirts where they don't really influence your life. Maybe you even influence their life more than they do yours, type of thing, or they don't influence it at all. And those are kind of like acquaintances and the people who we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But then we moved kind of into each other's closer orbit. And, it's intentionality at the end of the day. Like, I think if we didn't have that intentional thought of like, hey, I really care about Vlad, maybe he hasn't called me in 3 weeks. And some people might be like, hey, nobody's calling me, whatever. Whatever, bro.
Yeah.
Like, put down that pride.
Well, call yourself.
Call.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will. I'm like, oh, if you have that mentality, it's like, you might want to check yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, it's just a bro, like your brother. Like, I have a brother who we barely talk sometimes, and it's okay. I understand he has a busy life. He understands I have a busy life, and vice versa. I have friends who are in different parts of the world. Same thing. It's funny enough, some of the friendships that are the closest in my life, we barely talk. We'll have like those deep 1 hour conversations, or 2, sometimes 3. And we'll just like pray for each other. We'll share our worries, our doubts, the things we're going through, like the real heavy stuff, the stuff that very few understand. But they've been there. They've been through ups and downs, and we'll gladly pray for each other. We'll gladly support each other. If we can help with whatever capacity we can, we'll help.
Yeah.
And those are the type of people, not only that, but I will give them a degree of access to my other friends, so to say, even if they don't have it. And this is something I've learned from friends that I have who are in positions of power financially and from an actual position. And they're like, hey, never just like introduce me to somebody. Like, get my kind of like permission type of thing. Like meaning you don't want to just throw out your rubies type of thing. Like, if you're going to share, your friends are valuable, and you don't just want to throw them out to anybody.
Right.
You want to be intentional of who you kind of deposit those connections, because you get one wrong person into your group. There's this beautiful illustration. Everybody's sitting on this side. One guy just jumps on there, pushes everybody back. And that's kind of like the thing I learned is like certain times you just want to be very intentional about who you let in, who you trust, and all that stuff. Because even if you're 10 people in your group are solid, but you get an 11th or 12th,
you get that Judah.
Woof! Y'all going down. Y'all going down the hardcore. And that's just a very wise lesson I learned from a friend. Very grateful for him. Believe it or not, he's not Christian. I've invested into him, like, brought him, to gatherings, Christian gatherings, all that kind of stuff, praying for him, everything else. And I believe the Lord's working in him. I could clearly see it. But that's another thing. I think sometimes people are like, oh, no, he's not Christian. I can't receive. I can't do this. I can't do this. Especially like business people. Oh, no. He's blessed and all this kind of stuff. Like, but I can't because he's not Christian. It's like, bro, have you seen your life? Like, what? Like, do you not remember where you came from and all this stuff? Like, some people are just following biblical principles without even knowing them. And I think that's something that you and me have like realized is sometimes we have those friendships with people who maybe they don't, by proxy even sometimes, Erwin, but he's Christian, pastor and everything. But like the stuff they've been through, those lessons, everything they give is so deep. It's like, bro, I just need to learn from you.
Yeah.
I think I went a little bit on a tangent there, but friendship, bro.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think maybe, I don't know how far we want to go into this, but maybe one more thing we can talk about is friendship is definitely tested. I think that's the how you
thesis.
You got to test your friendship. You got to test your friends. For me personally, when I think of a good friend, and I'm going to be like that to people, is when they're right, support them. They're wrong, you call them out.
Preach.
And all of my friends know this. All the people around me, they're close to me. They know this. If you do something stupid, I'm going to tell you. And I'm not going to say that you're stupid, but I'm going to ask you, why are you doing this? Do you understand what you're doing? And what's interesting is that some of the some of the deepest relationships I have with people are the ones that I called out the most. And that's how I test everybody, honestly. I say something to them, with love, with respect. I want them to understand where I'm coming from. And the one thing that I've heard, I don't remember who said it, but said, "I love you too much to not say these things."
Yeah.
You know, and when you get a positive response when you say, and then sometimes people will be like, at first, nobody likes to hear when they're wrong, and I'm the same way, but in the end,
hurts.
that's how you test your friends. That's how you test your friendships. That's how you know your longevity. And sometimes your friend might be wrong, and maybe sometimes you have to just push through them and like support them regardless. But in the end, there has to be a healthy balance. You can't just bash on your friends all the time. That's not a friendship. But it needs to be a healthy balance of like
Constructive criticism.
exactly. And then, I just watched this movie about two brothers. And they say blood is thicker than water. Not always the case. Sometimes your brothers can be your worst enemies. And that's kind of what the movie was about, where they're like supporting each other, but in the end they screw each other up. But sometimes that's what friendship is like. That's what true brotherhood is. Sometimes through good moments, through bad moments, you have to pull through. You have to reevaluate. You have to come back. You have to push each other. And there's more to it, and especially like you said, those people who are at the core. We look at Jesus. He was not afraid to call out things in their disciples, and the ones that stuck around, they're the ones who changed the world. They're the ones who are the closest to him. So we need a little bit of like iron sharpens iron, and you gotta do a little wear and tear. You know what I mean? And if you're not an iron, if you're wood, I'm gonna destroy you.
Yeah.
You can't. And the thing is, you can't sharpen me. If you're a piece of wood, you can't sharpen me. No, but otherwise, I'll be actually
You're getting chipped away, bro. You getting
the wood is chipped away, and I'm getting more dull. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about these deep relationships,
that's how you lose a friend.
There you go. Sometimes it's just gonna happen automatically.
Chop.
And don't be afraid to chop people off. You know what I mean?
There you go.
When you get to a certain level, some people are just gonna get chopped off.
That's right. Hey, watch out. You might get chopped off.
Chopped off.
I love that. No, dude, you're right. I have friends who I think in some degree they're even in areas of life higher than me. And I've called them out and they've respected me for that. They're like, bro, I really respect you for that. Because I know that actually that's a biblical verse. I'm sorry that I'm not trying to be hyper spiritual here or whatever. It's just reminding me. But there's a verse I believe in Proverbs. It's like, wounds of a friend can be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like life, bro. Sometimes you gotta have that tough love. And this generation, sadly, everybody wants to have that, ooh, like so soft and like so cuddly, like, type of friendship. And it's like, that's cool. Love it. That's awesome. It's a part of it. But there's gotta be that tough love, where you're like, hey man, like love you, but this is like the line right here, bro.
Yeah. And I'm very curious about like, we're talking about two guys,
Yeah.
We're in our mid to late 20s, but I'm very curious also how like with ladies, with girls, like I've seen some great relationships. I've seen some fake relationships. I'm wondering how that works out. I'm always, I would talk to my wife about this all the time and I just see how she handles those relationships. It's kind of very interesting too, because, you got to be respectful. You can't be too harsh. I think it goes for both, but for us guys, we can be a little more straightforward sometimes. But I think the ultimate goal is to grow each other, grow character, grow in wealth and health. I like to work with my friends personally. If I've been an entrepreneur for a while, and some of my closest friends were always my coworkers or somebody that I have business with. I love doing that. And if you have a healthy relationship, you can do it. If you don't have that healthy relationship, the business is going to be a wreck. You can never work with people like that. So I think there's a lot to learn from Jesus. There's a lot to learn from the Proverbs, like you're saying. And I think if we come into every relationship with that mindset, with that goal, let's grow. Let's actually know, let's ask questions. Let's genuinely try to, get to know each other. I think we're going to build something fruitful, and we're going to actually build a great community.
Facts.
And that's where it starts.
And guys, I think that's a good way to kind of leave it off right there. Vlad, thank you for just coming on again, bro. I mean, we didn't too much plan this. It was just kind of like, hey, it worked out. This man's a busy man, guys. Entrepreneur, father, husband.
I've seen busier people, but
yeah, I mean,
I appreciate you for inviting me to talk about friendship,
dude,
and to honor me as a refresh of your podcast.
Yes, guys.
And you better keep going.
Yes,
because this is not a one-off.
This man gonna keep me accountable. No, yeah, I just needed to kind of give like a little ending spiel of I want to be very genuine with what I release. I don't want to just push out content just for an algorithm to pick it up. I don't even care, honestly, at some degree. I mean, obviously you want people to hear your message, but at the same time, it's like, even if it helps just one person, I'm really happy it did. And that's always been my kind of heart posture. Like, any ministry that we started or did by myself, it's always been that. It's like, it's not about the 99, it's about that one. And that's going to be my heart posture till I die, because that's Jesus's heart posture. I'm not really big on institutionalizing things and all that kind of stuff. I want to keep it genuine and real. And sometimes institutionalizing things just prevents that, because you got to go through all these filters and red tape and all that kind of stuff. And then if I ever feel like I'm just not in the right heart posture, or my just mental health is like in a place where I'm like, I don't want people to get hurt because I'm not like there.
Nobody wants to hear you complain for 20 minutes, right?
Exactly.
And I get it. And I think I told you before, like, hey, why don't you start this and that? And and I hear you. Like, I respect that. I think that's important to have. It's the same thing with any friendship you have. If you're always complaining about stuff, you don't want to be around those people. So the stuff that we put out there needs to be straight from the heart, and we're not always right. We don't always get it right.
Yeah.
But I think if it's coming from the right place, I think that's the key, right?
Exactly.
So I respect that.
Washed by the blood.
That's why you're wearing red. Yeah.
This was not playing, guys, for real. But yeah, love you guys. See you next time.
Peace.
Glad. It was good to see you, bro.
God bless you, my friends.
Bye. Peace.